Okay, thank you for joining us this evening. We certainly did not think we would be here. We had our hurricane press conference just on Monday, on the 1st is the start of hurricane season, and here we are for Tropical Storm Cristobal. I'm very honored to be joined by elected officials as well as many of our partners when it comes to storms. So we have our chairman, Chairman Ricky Template, Councilman Dominic Impastato for District 4, Mayor of Gretna, Belinda Constant is with us today, as well as we have Joe Valiente, who's the Director of Emergency Management, Sheriff Joe Lopinto, our Director of Public Works, Mark Drews, Director of Drainage, Mitch Terrio. From Entergy, we have Melanie Stewart, who is the Vice President. East Bank, our Chief of the East Bank Consolidated Fire Department, Dave Tibbetts, Director of our West Bank Fire Services, Brian Adams. We have Derek Baze from the Southeast Louisiana Flood Protection Authority East. John Monson from the Executive Staff of the Regional Director, Southeast Louisiana Flood Protection Authority West. And many of these people will be addressing you after shortly. So with that, again, we are here to make sure the public is aware that Tropical Storm Cristobal is heading our way. This is going to be a very high rain event, possible flooding, winds. As I mentioned, we were just here on Monday in preparation for storm season. This storm coming at us is actually a record-setting event in that it is the earliest named storm to happen in June. Normally, the third named storm in past years doesn't happen until August. So this is a very, very early storm. As I mentioned on Monday, we have a high probability, 60% probability that this storm season is going to be very active, and certainly us being here today on June 5th is evidence of that. So as of 4:30 today, Jefferson Parish will be under a declaration of emergency. We want to make sure everybody is aware of this storm and doing all of those things that they need to do in their personal lives, with their families, with their properties to prepare. We need people to stay off the street. The storm we'll start seeing the effects of this probably on Saturday, and it could last through Monday. So we want people to remain off the streets today and in preparation starting today, now. You need to do those things to protect your property. You need to clear the catch basins in front of your house. Do not sweep leaves in the catch basin. Obviously, this is our first defense for your house to not have water, is the catch basin in front of your street. It needs to be cleared out. So please, everybody, do the neighborly thing. Do it for your neighborhood. Clean all the catch basins in front of your street, not shoving the leaves into it, putting it out and putting it in your garbage cans. The garbage cans themselves need to be secured. You need to try to remove loose limbs from all of your trees. Remove and secure any loose items around your house. So the smokers, the grills, the decorations that you might have up, the loose flower pots, the patio furniture. Remember, this could be a high wind event. Have the flashlight and batteries, and we have Entergy here. You may lose electricity for some period of time. Make sure you have your medication in hand for the next few days. Have sufficient food and water in your home so that you don't have to go out over this weekend on a Monday, that you're taken care of in terms of food and water. And we want everybody to make sure that you get our alerts, JP Alert to 88, you can text JP Alert to 888-777, as well as a new feature we've added for the Spanish-speaking people, JP Noticias. Again, that's JP Noticias to 888-777. Again, we're available on jeffparish.net. Keep up with Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So I want to invite many people up to give you the latest information about Tropical Storm Cristobal. So we're going to start with our Director of Emergency Management, Mr. Joe Valiente. So I'm going to invite Mr. Valiente up.
Thank you, Madam President. Good afternoon, everyone. So the National Weather Service just contacted us and said that the tropical storm watch that was in effect is now a tropical storm warning. So what that means is that there's a high expectation that you will experience tropical force winds. The storm still is centered over the northern Mexican coast, and it hasn't made, I'll say landfall, but it hasn't entered the Gulf of Mexico. So we're looking at the possibility that we're going to start seeing winds to affect our area on Sunday around 8 a.m. But on Saturday about 6 p.m., we're going to start seeing the effects of the tidal surge, the storm surge. Tides are going to start to rise. The tides at this time are expected to be in the area between 4 and 6 feet, but should this storm intensify as it drives north through the Gulf, we could be looking at 6 to 10 feet. I want to remind everybody that this is going to be a large rain event. If the storm does not intensify past the tropical storm status or category, it is definitely going to be a large rain event. The winds will be moderate, and so we can expect some power outages. We can expect localized street flooding. At present, they're expecting 10.5 inches for the next 36 to 48 hours. I'll let Mitch Terrio from Drainage address that rate, but we've notified all our partners. We're working closely with the levee districts, East and West Authority, and we're also working very closely with the Corps of Engineers. Some of the concerns from the National Weather Service is that if the storm passes further east or closer to the Jefferson Parish area, the storm surge coming up the river will be greater, and that the height of the river could reach 17 feet. So we're working closely with the Army Corps of Engineers on that, and we're monitoring that situation closely also. So I just want to remind everyone that this is going to be a large rain event. It's not going to be safe to be out on the streets when we're feeling the full force of the effects between Sunday evening and into Monday morning. And we're hoping that the storm maintains its 12-mile-an-hour track and speed, and that way it will pass through our area very, very quickly. So thank you very much, and just remember, stay tuned to your local news stations. Make sure that if you use social media as a source, that they're reliable sources. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. We in Jefferson Parish certainly have been very busy preparing for this event, so next I'd like to call up Sheriff of Jefferson Parish, Sheriff Joe Lopinto.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be brief. Remember, the number in Jefferson Parish, the emergency number is 911. All of our calls go through 911, whether emergency or non-emergency, whether it is law enforcement, fire, or EMS. Any calls for service should be formatted through them. Our officers will be out in force in order with high water vehicles and boats if necessary, especially in our lower lying areas. Most of those people in those lower lying areas know where they are, know when they need to get out, but if they need assistance from us, do not hesitate to contact. With the storm in the path and the intensity as it is right now, I do not expect any type of lack of service of the Sheriff's Office. I believe we will continue to be out there in our normal numbers and handling calls for service as we need be. But remember, there is no non-emergency number in Jefferson Parish. The correct number is 911. If you have any problems during this, do not hesitate to contact us. Thank you.
Okay, next up, to talk about our Jefferson Parish drainage system is our Director of Public Works, Mr. Mark Drews, and our Director of Drainage, Mr. Mitch Terrio.
And I'm Mitch Terrio, Director of Drainage. I'll get started with the status of our existing pumps. That usually is the highest topic of interest at times like this. So of all of our 192 pumps, they're all available. Earlier this week, we had one pump that was out at the Ames pump station. As of noon today, that pump is now back in service. So kudos to the Jefferson Parish pump station employees and the two contractors, Bowling Marine and A&H Electric, who worked feverishly to get that done before this event. The normal accelerated schedule they were working put it Monday or Tuesday next week. We asked them earlier this week if there's something they could do to expedite, and they got it done. So thanks to all concerned with that. Related to the pump stations also, we have all of our operators in town and on standby to work 24 hours a day until the event passes, work as necessary. We've topped off all of our fuel supplies at the stations and our vehicles. If a station had to pump every pump continuously, we could go about 5 days. Typically, as the event passes, we can drop down the number of pumps and maintain a canal elevation. So at that rate, we could probably go 10 to 12 days. So we have, as far as the collection system, our guys have been and gals have been cleaning catch basins for 12 hours a day for the last couple of days, and they'll do so tomorrow and Sunday as long as the weather permits. Once the wind speed gets up to and between 40 and 50 miles an hour. At some point, we determine it's no longer safe for them to be out there, they'll come in. But as soon as the storm's over, they'll be back out on the streets. So we also have in the Lafitte area deployed, again, we have about 28 pumps, permanent pumps down in Lafitte that we operate and maintain. All of those, again, are available. We've also deployed 14 portable pumps down there in case additional capacity is necessary. We've patrolled all of the construction sites to make sure that there aren't any dams that were in place for construction purposes still in place. Any blockages in pipes that were related to construction have been removed. As far as cleaning catch basins, we have been getting a lot of calls, and we can get there, as Parish President recommended. Anybody who's able-bodied and feels like they can clean the basin in front of their house themselves, we certainly appreciate it. We have about 80,400 basins that need cleaning. Most of our residents do a really good job of helping us out with that. But anybody who's not able to, if the actual grate has to be lifted and the box itself cleaned out, they can certainly call us and we'll get there as soon as possible. Not only is drainage now dedicated all of our employees besides the pump station operators towards cleaning catch basins, we've also got our streets department helping with that task, as well as our investigative rehab services department. So we have about 14 trucks on the street right now that are cleaning catch basins. Any questions? Down in Grand Isle, we also have deployed 6 portable pumps to assist them as well. So the only thing I'll add to that is, we're fortunate at this time. We have many employees in the drainage department who've been around a long time and been through, unfortunately, many events like this. So I just, we're in the best hands we can be in, and we'll be on the ready for any situations that arise.
Mark Drews, Public Works Director. Although we expect that this is going to be primarily a rain and tidal surge event, which affects the drainage department, all of our public works departments are ready to maintain the critical infrastructure of Jefferson Parish throughout the storm and to immediately begin any necessary restoration if there is any damage. Our water plants will be manned throughout the event. Both plants on the East Bank and West Bank, they both have emergency generators with 5-day fuel supply on site in case they lose power. Even though we don't think they'll need to use them, they do actually also have safe houses there with automation, so they could technically run the water plants from those safe houses. Again, our sewer treatment plants, we have 4 major plants, 1 on the East Bank, 3 on the West Bank. Again, they also have the backup emergency generators with a 5-day fuel supply on site, and they will be manned throughout the duration of this storm. In addition, we have crews that are on standby, ready to go as need be immediately after the storm that can begin any cleanup that's necessary. Our streets department and parkways departments are ready with the proper equipment where they can clear the streets of any debris or down tree limbs, and they'll work hand in hand with energy if there's down power lines. Our traffic division is ready with barricades and signage as necessary if we need to close roads for any reason on an emergency basis, and they will also handle if we have any traffic signals out. They'll be ready to alleviate that situation. And as Mitch said before, even in those departments as well, we have numerous employees who've been through Katrina, Rita, Gustav, and Ike. So we have an experienced staff that is ready and capable of handling this event and the aftermath. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And as we know, a storm event is often an energy event. So I was glad to be on the phone earlier with Philip May, who is the president of Entergy Louisiana. And we also have Melanie Stewart with Entergy here with us today to give us the details about the additional resources in the area.
Thank you, Madam President. Melanie Stewart with Entergy. And just as Jefferson Parish is prepared, Entergy is prepared. We work hand in hand with local and state officials, and we've been watching this storm since it began several days ago. At this point, our crews are working their pre-storm checklist, and what that involves is looking at our equipment in the low-lying areas and either moving that equipment to higher ground, or if that equipment cannot be moved, putting some dams around that equipment. So we are prepared for the water event. At this point, we've secured approximately 2,500 resources to help with this restoration. So we are ready, whatever the storm brings. We're also, of course, because these are unique times, we have to prepare for both the storm event as well as the pandemic. So we are practicing social distancing guidelines. We're ensuring that we use hand sanitizer. And we also want to ask the public to please also maintain those social distancing guidelines from our crews. It's going to be very tempting if there's an outage in your area to go up to the crew and ask what's going on. Please just maintain the 6-foot distance. We've also been running some damage prediction models to ensure that we have the appropriate level of personnel and equipment available. We also have secured some high water vehicles as well as drones. In case the area is difficult to access, we'll be able to take drone footage, get those damage assessments, and get it to our storm team so that they can prepare for the restoration. We'll also continue to patrol lines ahead of the storm and proactively address any issues that we find. I do want to remind everyone that we are not able to get in the bucket in the air when the winds are sustained at 30 miles or greater. But once those winds die down, we will be in the bucket performing restoration work. We also want to encourage everyone, just as we are getting prepared and Jefferson Parish is prepared, to get your own storm plan together. There's a number of really good resources out there. Ready.gov, EnergyStormCenter.com. There's checklists and ways for you to think about how you're going to communicate with your loved ones during this time. We also want you to download the Entergy app and also, again, visit us at EnergyStormCenter.com. But finally, and most importantly, remember to stay away from downed power lines and don't use a generator indoors. Again, thanks to the parish, to you, our customers, let's all stay prepared and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. And just to clarify, if people are downloading the app, Melanie, it's Entergy Louisiana for Jefferson Parish residents, and Entergy New Orleans is a separate entity. So just remember, Jefferson Parish is served by Entergy Louisiana. We know the importance of our first responder community during these times, so I want to invite our Chief of the East Bank Consolidated Fire Department, Chief Dave Dibbets, as well as the Director of our West Bank Fire Services, Director Brian Adams, up.
Thank you, Madam President. The East Bank Consolidated Fire Department is, all our stations are fully operational. We have shallow water boats ready for deployment along with some Zodiacs. We certainly hope we don't need them. We will reiterate what others have said, that when a storm makes its impact, please stay home, stay inside. It's not necessary to go out. That reduces the risk that we have to take. We will be out there to take those risks if needed, but we prefer not to, obviously. But please heed the information that you get from the news media, your local leadership, and go with those guidances. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. We reiterate what Chief Tibbetts said. We have all those same water vehicles, those same rescue boats on the West Bank and in the River Ridge area of Harahan, those departments that I represent and direct, and we'll be ready, and we stand ready with the parish and the East Bank Fire Department. Thank you.
Okay, next we'll have Mr. Derek Baze with the Southeast Louisiana Flood Protection Authority East. Mr. Baze.
Thank you, Madam President. In addition to the floodgates we closed at the start of this week with the beginning of storm season, in the last 2 days, we've closed 26 floodgates throughout the region, and we will close an additional 23 more by the end of the day tomorrow. We will also be fully staffed at our 3 permanent pumping stations on the lakefront, including the 17th Street Canal Pump Station, and fully coordinated our pumping efforts there with Sewage and Water Board. The system is ready to go, fully operational. It was tested last year for Barry, and we're confident in the ability of the system to handle the storm that's coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baze. And next, Mr. John Monson is the Director of the Southeast Louisiana Flood Protection Authority West. Mr. Monson.
Good afternoon. The Southeast Louisiana Flood Protection Authority West began closing gates yesterday. Today, we managed to close all of the 35 valves along the Peters Roof corridor. We will close 19 of the remaining 25 hurricane protection system floodgates by tomorrow. with the exception of Boomtown, Highway 45, and Bayou Signet boat launch. Those will be closed Sunday before lunchtime. The floodgates that we operate on navigable waterways, we will coordinate those efforts with the Corps of Engineers and the Coast Guard, but everything in our system will be buttoned up by noon on Sunday. So we're ready to go. Thank you.
Thank you, and we know certainly during storm events where we have the advantage of having all of our council district offices that represent the entire parish and their staff out in the streets assessing things. All of them have the cell phone numbers for all of our directors, so that's a real help for us here at the EOC, knowing that we have people who know all of us who are reporting it very quickly. So representing our Jefferson Parish Council is Chairman Ricky Template.
And thank you, Madam President. As you could hear from everyone speaking today, and our partners throughout the community and my colleagues, Jefferson Parish is preparing but not panicking. We're going to ask the same of our constituents and our citizens. We're going to ask you to prepare but don't panic. This is not the first time we've had some type of situation like this occurred on us. And you know, we have a lot of the coastal areas and cities here in Jefferson Parish and a large portion of the coast of the state of Louisiana, which are preparing for this storm, which have the experience to do so. I am proud to be able to say my colleagues and myself have contacted mostly all of the cities within Jefferson Parish and most of the council members and staff members to keep informed of what is needed. We have one of our mayors here with us today, Belinda Constant, but all have been informed and to know that if they need something, please contact us. Grand Isle today, speaking to Mayor Commodell, has instituted evacuation, voluntary, starting at noon today. Tomorrow at 6 a.m., Grand Isle will be mandatory evacuation. The concerns is that Highway 1 will not be accessible at one point, so they're asking people to start a mandatory evacuation at 6 a.m. in the morning. Today, I'm coming back from Lafitte right before I came here. I will have to compliment our drainage department, Ms. Terrio. He does have 14 backup pumps. The experience over the years have given them the location of where those pumps are needed. They're not just in Lafitte, they're in Crown Point, Barataria, Lower Lafitte, and Lafitte itself. This experience that we have had over the years with Mitch and the parish, as the parish president had announced with our colleagues, makes a difference during a storm situation. Grand Isle does have 6 backup pumps, as well as we're working on other pumps if needed so. Grand Isle and Lafitte will take the brunt of any of these storms that come off the Gulf and deal with the tidal surges themselves. As far as our constituents, please make sure that you clean your catch basins, your drains, and prepare. Take furniture in from outside on your porch so they don't become flying objects. And on another note, each and every one of us, family members and friends, have been going through a hard time these last few months. Emotionally, stress, anxiety, and issues keep compounding. This is one of those. I was down in Lafitte today with a lot of citizens asking, what do we need to do? Panicking almost, concerned with anxiety. Please, if you have anyone in your family that feels overwhelmed, has emotion like sadness, depression, or anxiety, or feels like they want to harm themselves or someone else, please dial 911. This, as well as we have a 1-800 number that will be put up on the parish's website, 1-800-985-5990. And please call and get help if someone you think needs it. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, we will issue, our emergency declaration goes into effect today at 4:30. Our emergency operations in this area right here will be partially activated throughout the storm, so we will be manning this event the entire time. I want to thank all of the participants and all the people who have been here, and we can certainly open up to any questions of any of the speakers today. No? Yeah. Yeah.
Just touch on y'all are going through so much dealing with this and we're through a pandemic. Touch on how difficult it is to handle all of this all at once.
Well, we have, I would say we've kind of been in crisis mode since being, the the heart of, per capita for coronavirus, I will say, and I still think to this point, we're probably in the top 50 communities that have had the numbers for coronavirus. So we're sort of in this mode already. Certainly, I kind of knew this storm was just coming right at us. I mean, those of us, it's almost kind of funny that it's not funny, but, we're just thinking, yeah, of course it's going to come at us. But we're prepared. The communication has been there throughout, with all the departments. So in that sense, we're probably more ready because we're all of the different factions of government and through the private sector and our businesses have been communicating so well with our hospital systems, with the sheriff's office, with all of us. So in that sense, we're probably more prepared even than we would have normally been just at the very start of hurricane season. But certainly, we're very mindful of that being here at the EOC. We're not bringing in all the people we normally would. Again, this is expected to be a tropical storm situation, so it's not the same as if we were dealing with a hurricane category 3, 4, or 5. So knowing that coronavirus is still in our community, we're not staffing up full staff as we normally would with a higher hurricane. So luckily, we're being mindful of that as well. And we expect everybody to be mindful of that. But it does certainly, have to acknowledge it does make it more difficult given that coronavirus is still very much in our community, and we believe there's a lot of asymptomatic spread as well. So.
Do you expect Lafitte to be under any evacuations at Grand Isle?
I have not heard of a Lafitte evacuation. I have been in communication with the mayor, but not so far. Mitch has been down there, and there was some drainage folks down there, obviously, like they said, topping off the fuel and everything. But I think right now everybody is, except for Grand Isle, sheltering and staying at home and being at home for this. And certainly, if you're in a motorhome or something like that and the structure is not quite as sound, we expect you to move to a safer area. But as of this moment, I do not believe there has been any evacuation call for Lafitte. Not as of yet, but people need to obviously stay in touch. And of course, all of those communities that we have in the lower areas of Jefferson Parish are our most vulnerable. They're outside of the levee protection system. So we're very mindful of that. Yes. Well, if the event that there's flooding, we would open a shelter. We have not decided that, and it depends on the storm. So if in the event we have to open a shelter, we will, but we're not calling for that at the beginning because this is still a tropical storm. So this is not a situation where it's a major hurricane and we would have to evacuate people and put them on buses, and thank goodness we're not dealing with that so early in the season right now. So certainly it's just about being mindful, everybody having their supplies. If you're in a more crowded situation, if you're taking people in your home that you normally wouldn't because of this storm, just being very mindful of that. But in terms of our first responders, I think they're used to being in this. We've been in this mode since March, so they've been used to being called out. They have the equipment, they have the PPE. Certainly they've been extremely busy throughout this whole time, and so I think they're in the mode of working through coronavirus. I know our fire departments, our fire services, our sheriff's office has been on the, very, very active throughout this time. So, and again, what I described here at the EOC, we're being mindful that coronavirus is still here. We're not bringing in people. I mean, we were just starting to get more people in the buildings. We're still very much at if you can work at home in Jefferson Parish, stay at home. And I would like to say we haven't yet made a decision for our employees on Monday, but through the weekend, if the weather event is still here and still dangerous, we don't want people on the street, we'll certainly have to close our own government buildings on Monday, but we're going to wait a little bit to make that call. So we're going to expect people to call the employee hotline on that. I think a lot of businesses are in that mode on Monday as well. Let's just see. We've been fortunate in Grand Isle because that certainly with coronavirus, there is no hospital in Grand Isle. The medical community, is not there in Grand Isle the way it is up here. We were always concerned about vacationers going to Grand Isle. So we've been very fortunate in Grand Isle that the virus has not taken a hold in that community so far. So it's not a hotbed of activity in terms of the virus, and we've tested a lot down there. So again, very fortunate. We're trying to keep, especially now, but before, keep the population there at a minimum because we just didn't want to because you have to travel some distance to get to a doctor's office, or at least even to an urgent care. So, any other questions?
You said the storm surge down in Granada could get as high as 10 feet, correct?
Was it 4 to 6? Yeah, Joe, was it?
As it stands right now, 4 to 6 feet. If this storm organizes and intensifies, they're looking at 6 to 10 feet. But like those are maximum numbers. So those are the maximum numbers that exceed the 10%. So it's not likely to reach that, assuming that the storm remains as a tropical storm. And I did want to follow up on the shelter issue on the evacuation, is that I spoke with the Director of Recreation today, Mario Bazile, and he's aware that if we have to, we have 24 playground gyms that we can open if we have to. We don't have any pre-storm shelters, but in the event that anyone gets flooded out or they're evacuating, they don't have anywhere to go, we can certainly provide safe harbor as shelters in our gyms. We train for that. And so we have Miley on the East Bank on standby, and we have Pard on the West Bank on standby. But that would be, but remember, that is not a pre-storm shelter.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and we just want to encourage everybody to please stay tuned to your local news, stay tuned to us as we get to the next couple days. Thank you very much.